Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 3 for 2026. And today we're going to be looking at every club's best 23, according to me, basically. I've gone through every team in the competition, put together what I think is the best 23. We're going to work our way through them all alphabetically in today's episode. If you're new here, welcome on in. If you're not new, welcome back. Hope you enjoy this episode. That's basically the long and the short of what we've got planned today. We do this podcast once a week, every week heading into basically March, end of late February. We're going to move back to 2 episodes a week as we did all year last year. So plenty of content coming out pre-season. This obviously goes live on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you give the podcast a rating, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Like, leave a comment, let me know where I've gone right, where I've gone wrong. I'm interested in hearing all of your opinions, so chuck it in the comments. Also, before we fully get into it, all the best 23s, as well as plenty of other information, is also getting released on the YouTube channel. In club previews, like season previews for each club. We're working our way through alphabetically. The first one went live yesterday at time of this podcast getting released. So Adelaide's already up on the YouTube channel, All Aussie Rules on YouTube. Go check it out. We're working our way alphabetically through all the clubs. So by the, I think, mid 20th of February, somewhere around there, is the last team of that. So over the next 3.5, 4 weeks, every single club will be up on that channel. We're doing 5 a week, so plenty of content there. Go check it all out. I hope you enjoy it. Worth noting, there have been some injuries since these best 23s were put together, so things slightly change here and there, but I've left out certain players that are out for the full season. But if they're only missing half the season, or they should be back during the season, then I have still included them on the most cases. I think that's pretty much everything we need to talk about in the preliminary stage. Let's jump into it. We'll start with Adelaide and work our way through. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's jump into it. Adelaide Crows. Obviously, minor premiers last year. So, as you'd expect, a pretty good team. I think worth noting, Josh Rochelli's done a lot of midfield time this pre-season so far. So, there is the potential that he'll move into that midfield. We'll see how that plays out. Their forward line, though, is really solid. Both talls and smalls, they're really good. Riley Thilthorpe's one of the best key forwards in the competition. Chuck in with Walker Fogarty, and then the smalls in Rochelli Keys, Neil Bullen. Plenty more firepower on the bench as well. Obviously, Callum Archie joining the club this year, so plenty of firepower up forward. The midfield's pretty strong. Dawson obviously was a top 5, probably midfielder last season. Rankin, we all know what he's capable of as a midfielder and also as a forward line player. He's really good. Riley O'Brien's a mid-range, I think he was 10th ranked ruckman last season, so his numbers are really good. So he's good in that ruck role. Saligo perhaps has a bit more potential to move up this season. I think last year he's ranked about 50th odd inside midfielder. I think if he can get that into the top 30, that would be a massive step in taking this Adelaide team to the next level. Their wings, Dan Curtin was absolutely huge last year. He was a top 10 outside midfielder and was in talks for the Rising Star last year. Isaac Cumming in his first year was pretty solid out on the other wing. Backline, Josh Worrell's probably the big one here. He was absolutely outstanding. Unlucky not to be All-Australian last year. Rory Laird, good ball user. Keane, Hinge, Murray, Malira, all really solid in that backline. And then their bench, looking at Peatling, who was fantastic in his first year over in Adelaide last year, coming across from GWS. Sam Berry, Archie coming across from Brisbane this year. Max Michaelani in that backline, and Sid Draper, I think, will get a bit more game time this year. Last year he was subbed out a fair chunk of time. still looks like an absolute future star in the coming years. Worth noting, I didn't put on these graphics, but I also did do the emergencies. So, like the next probably 6 in line. For Adelaide, it was Jordan Butts, Finbar Malley, Zach Taylor, Braden Cook, Billy Dowling, and Lachlan McAndrew. And that's pretty much the Crows' story heading into 2026. It's a good looking team. There's no doubt about it. If some of these players can take that next step, Cumming, Saligo, through the midfield, a couple of the defenders take that next step as well. There's no reason why these guys can't be really dangerous next season. Worrell and Keane are the two big key defenders that were really good last year. If Murray or Butts can take that next step, their backline will be absolutely super. Like I think they were the second or third best defense in terms of scoring against them last year. So they did the right things most of the way. It was just that their ability to score in those two finals was a real big issue in the end, which is strange because their forward line is really, really good. But that's pretty much the long and the short of it. We'll move on to Brisbane Lions. Obviously, back-to-back premiership, looking for 3 in a row. And it's a tight squeeze to get all the best players into this team. They have some good players across the board. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Starting in the forward line, obviously, a little bit of a change up forward. Oscar Allen joining the club. Maybe changes a few things up forward. We'll see. Logan Morris, his first 2 seasons have been absolutely outstanding, and I would imagine we're going to see that continue to improve. So he's looking like a really big future. And then Charlie Cameron, Kai Lohman, Cam Rayner. We know what they're all capable of. Cameron was huge in the grand final. Lohman was huge in the grand final the year before. Cam Rayner, impact player, can go into the midfield at times when needed. Not that that's really needed with how good this Brisbane midfield is. We'll get to that in a second. James Tunstall's been really unlucky over the last couple seasons for Brisbane. Hopefully he can get a bit of luck and get some game time this year. Inside mids and ruck. So Sam Draper joins the club across from Essendon. The ruck rules probably help him and make him an even better player. He is, at time of recording of this, it was announced earlier today that he has a stress fracture in his foot. So he's going to be missing a little bit of game time. But I think when fit, he'll clearly be their number one ruck. Then McCluggage, absolute gun. Will Ashcroft, big game player. Maybe the most clutch since this is going a long way back. But Dustin Martin, like already to Norm Smith medals. His ability in finals over the last 2 years has been absolutely outstanding. Josh Dunkley, we know what he can do. He plays that more defensive midfield role most of the time for this Brisbane team and does a great job. They've got the best, probably, combination wings in the competition in Berry and Bailey. Zach Bailey could 100% be an inside mid and would be at just about any other club in the competition. I think they were ranked second and third as outside mids last season. They're a fantastic combination there for Brisbane. And then their backline is as good, if not as any team in the competition. Harris Andrews, arguably the best key defender in the competition last year, especially late season in finals, was huge. Jack Payne got injured, which I thought might have hurt Brisbane in the back half of the year, but they just covered it. Wilmot, also really good. Ryan Lester, solid numbers last year. And then Zorko, the ball user. And Jasper Fletcher, he's finished to the season. His grand final was fantastic. He's looking like he will be an absolute gun off that half-back line and probably just completely take that Dane Zorko role over this season, I reckon, as their number one ball user out of the back line. We'll see if that is what happens, but I would imagine it will be. Interchange, Lachie Neale. Unlucky not to be in starting midfield, but how can you go against a 2-time Norm Smith medalist, Hugh McCluggage, and Josh Dunkley? Lachie Neale's still an absolute gun, even if he has had an eventful off-season. Coleman, he's really good, can play any role, half-back flank, can move up to the wing if they need it. So we'll see that a bit, I think. Darcy Fort as their he'll be their number one ruckman for the first half of the year until Sam Draper is fit. And then I still think they play him. I mean, he's a two-time premiership ruckman. 2 years ago, 2024, wasn't meant to be until Oscar McInerney got injured in the prelim. Last year, he was their number one ruck and did a good job of it late season. So it's hard to, I guess, drop him. I don't know. He probably won't play every game, but I would imagine he'll probably be playing most games, especially with 5 on the bench now. I think that will help play that extra toll. Eric Hipwood, the key forward, he can kick goals. He's never really taken off as a key forward, but I still think he is in their best 23. And Levi Ashcroft played every game last year for Brisbane, or just about every game. If he didn't, he was very close to. Had an outstanding first season. It's a hard midfield to break into, but he's going to be playing pretty much every week again this year, you would imagine. Emergencies for Brisbane, like players, all of these are very unlucky not to be in the best 23. Darcy Gardner, first of all, key defender, was really good last year. Pretty much would be in top 3 for most clubs. Noah Answorth, more of a ball-using defender. Bruce Revel played an outstanding role back end of last season. Can play wing, outside mid mostly. Sam Marshall, another one that debuted last year, played 5 or 6 games and was really good. Ty Gallup came in as a key forward at latter half of the year. Probably doesn't keep that role just because of Oscar Allen coming in, I wouldn't imagine. But we'll see how that plays out. And Daniel Annable, who was their big draft pick this season in 2025 going into 2026. There was a lot of talk that he was good enough to be in their best 23 last year had he been old enough to play. So I would imagine he's the most likely one to move into this best 23 in season 2026 and get plenty of opportunities. It's just a stacked midfield, and unless there's injuries, it's going to be very hard for other players to break into this team, I think. Next up, we head to the Carlton Blues. The Blue Baggers, they got an interesting season coming up. Maybe a lot of pressure on some certain players across the field. It's a changing best 23 quite a bit over from last year to this year. And we'll probably see some more changes again at the end of this season. The big ones, obviously, are Curnow out, Florent and Hayward in. Are the main changes, but that forward line definitely changes, obviously, with no more Curnow. Bit more pressure on Harry Mackay, potentially. Camp up there as well as a key forward. Hayward joins the cause, probably plays more high half forward at times. Last season wasn't fantastic for him at Sydney. I think it was a down year, certainly compared to the year before for him. He'll be looking to bounce back in his first year as a Blue. Zach Williams, Matt Cottrell and Ben Ainsworth is another good in for the Blues here. Ainsworth, half forward flank probably. The midfield, Pittenay will go ruck, no more decoding, so Pittenay will probably be solo ruck. We'll see how that plays out for him. Probably a better role for him to be the full-time ruck. Cripps, Hewitt, Sam Walsh, all absolute guns. I mean, Cripps is a multiple Brownlow medalist. Hewitt was arguably their best midfielder last year. In my opinion, he definitely was. And Sam Walsh, we know what he's capable of. Wing, Blake Acres was top 2 wingers in 2024. Was down a little bit most of last season, but still really good. And Florent joins from Sydney. He was fantastic. For Sydney last year, I think he was quite good, and I think he adds something to this Carlton team, in my opinion. Half-back line, Cohen, McGovern, Sard. No dominant players there. McGovern was ranked 29 as a key defender last year, so solid enough. Cowan and Sard, good, without doing great things. Haynes, Wiedering, O'Farrell. Wiedering's the big one there. He has been the last few years one of the best key defenders in the competition, so we'll see another big year from him. O'Farrell's up and coming. I can see him being pretty solid if he continues to keep that spot. Obviously, there'll be a little bit of pressure on him from Harry Dean, who was the number 3 pick in the draft last year. I would imagine we'll see potentially him getting some game time and maybe overtaking O'Farrell. Interchange Chera, Ollie Hollands, Francis Evans, Jagger Smith, who we didn't see at all last year. He'll be a big in for them. He's at the moment the favourite to be the Rising Star winner, quite overwhelming favourite. He was arguably the best ball winner from his draft class in his top year as a 17-year-old. So we fully expect to see that sort of translate once he gets into the team. Obviously, coming back from an ACL, don't expect too much straight away, but as he builds into it, I think we'll see quite a lot of good football from him in 2026 if he can stay fit and healthy. And Nick Newman, clearly in their best 23, I think, at the moment. If we take a look at the up-and-coming players, I guess, for them, obviously I already mentioned Harry Dean. Hard to get key position players who are ready to play straight away. I'm not 100% convinced that most teams he probably wouldn't. At Carlton, though, he's a big chance to be that third tall for them for chunks of this season. Cooper Lord, Lockie Fogarty, Matthew Carroll, Lewis Young, Campbell Chesser, and Liam Reddy are the next 6. Liam Reddy, probably their backup ruckman at the moment, I would say. Probably their only ruckman, backup ruckman. And that's Carlton Blues, 2026, best 23. We'll see how it plays out. I think this is one of the teams that will have a bit of changes throughout the season and potentially some players moving into these roles. They've got a lot of back line players. They've also got a lot of medium-sized forwards on this list. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Moving to Collingwood, obviously finished top 4 last season, made it to a prelim final. Not a lot has changed for them. They didn't really bring much in. They don't lose a hell of a lot. A couple of retirees, a couple of senior players moving to different clubs. But it's much the same as last year. So full forward line, Elliott, who was career best year last year, Tim Membry, Bobby Hill, half forwards by Macquarie, Dan McStay and Lockie Schultz, who was absolutely outstanding last year. Midfield, Darcy Cameron, Nick Dacos, probably Scott Pendlebury stays in that role, although I would like to see Josh Dacos move into the midfield and maybe Pendlebury swap out as the main starting midfield. I think the 2 Dacos with Ned Long would be huge. So yeah, Pendlebury, Ned Long. 2 wingers, Crisp, who also rotates inside mid at times, Pat Lipinski, who also rotates half forward flank at times. Halfbacks, Josh Dacos, Darcy Moore, Dan Houston. Fullbacks, Frampton, Howe, and Maynard. Howe is their most important backman, in my opinion. Frampton obviously takes the number 1 forward most weeks. Howe probably goes on to the 2nd or 3rd, with Darcy Moore the other one. Interchange side bottom, DeGoey, Perryman, Quainer, and Ed Allen. It's a really solid interchange list, that. Obviously, quite a bit of experience there inside bottom DeGoey. And even Perryman and Quainer starting to get on now. Ed Allen, a little bit younger. That's their best 23, in my opinion. Players that could come in, Harvey Harrison, coming back from injury, didn't play last year. I think he'll possibly be pushing for selection pretty early season. Reef McGuinness as a tall, it will probably be him and Frampton most of the time fighting for that tall spot, provided Howe and Moore are injury free. Jack Buller, he'll be pushing for some forward line time in this team coming across from Sydney in the off season. Him and Membry and maybe even McStay will all be fighting for spots as the key forwards. Rowan Steele got a bit of a game time late season last year after mid-season draftee. He'll get game time. Charlie West, he'll be the other key forward that gets game time this year, I'd say. Only played the 1 game last year, but showed a lot of potential in the VFL, so we'll see him play a bit. And Will Parker, when needed, as a medium-sized defender, was pretty solid last year, so we'll see him at times as well, I think. Moving on to the Bombers. Obviously, not high hopes for the Bombers season in 2026, and potentially some more changes coming at the end of this year. But forward line, I don't think it looks too bad. Kako, Peter Wright, Kyle Langford, forwards Gresham, Caddy is the big one. If he can take that step that everybody expects he's capable of, will be huge for them. Archie Perkins. Their wings, I think, is pretty set in stone. Fiorini and Dersma. And then in the ruck, I've got Nick Bryan, Zach Merritt, Sam Durham, and Jai Caldwell in the midfield there as well. It's an interesting lineup. Nick Bryan's, I think, not going to be ready at the start of the season, off the top of my head. So Vijo Vicentini will get a bit of a go early season, I think. And they also have some other tall players in other positions that can play ruck as well. So we'll see how that plays out. Halfbacks, McGrath, Archie Roberts as your two running ball-using backs, as well as Mason Redman. And then your tools, Ridley, Mackay and Zach Reid. Mackay obviously had a really poor season last year. The year before, he was pretty solid, though. So if he can get back towards his best, that would certainly help this Essendon team. Interchange Setterfield, Angus Clark, Jackson Pryor, Guelphy and Darcy Parish. I think it's a pretty solid bench, in my opinion at least. I don't know what other people think, but that's what I think. All of their draftees, or all their high draft picks, I think are a chance to certainly move into this best 23. They'll definitely get chances, but they'll definitely capable of moving, not just getting a game or two, actually being in their best 23. They include Dyson Sharp, Sullivan Roby, Jacob Farrow. I think all definitely have a big chance. I think even Hussein El Akla will be a chance to move in to maybe a bench role as a general forward as well. I have listed as the next 6 in line as Thomas Edwards, potentially getting that key forward role. Depends if they want to play Peter Wright all season. Dyson Sharp, Sullivan Roby, as I said, 2 young guns. Draftees, Elijah Sartis, that he hasn't made a spot his yet, so we'll see what happens there. Archer May unlucky not to be in the best 23, I think, and Harrison Jones also not in the best 23 as I see it. They're in for an interesting year. There's no doubt about it. They're not going fantastic at the moment, the Bombers, but there's always potential that they could can regroup and bounce back at some point over the next couple of years if they can rebuild properly. It looks like they've drafted pretty well. Fremantle, obviously one of the best young teams in the competition. It's crazy how young this team actually is. If you haven't seen last week's episode, we go through the average age and stuff of teams, and this best 23 average age is really, really good for Fremantle. Up forward, we got Frederick, Tracy, Paddy Voss, and then half forwards, we got Switkowski, Jai Miss, and Murphy Reid, the Rising Star winner. Really good forward line. The 3 talls all can play very, very good football. The smalls all can do really good things as well. Around the ground, win the ball, pressure, all that sort of stuff. Midfield, arguably the best 4-man midfield in the competition. I know there's a lot of competition nowadays with Gold Coast, GWS, Brisbane, but this 4-man I think is as good as you can basically get. Luke Jackson in the ruck, arguably top 5 ruckman in the competition. Brayshaw, Sarong, arguably top 10 midfielders last season. And chuck in Hayden Young, who missed most of the season last year. I think is an absolute gun. He's one of my favourite players in the competition. So that is a really good mix there. O'Driscoll and Johnson on the wings. Half-back line, obviously, Jordan Clark is the main ball user. Pearce, Chapman, and then full-back line of Oscar MacDonald, Brennan Cox and Luke Ryan. On the interchange, we've got Corey Wagner, Sean Darcy as that backup ruckman, Bolton, Sturt, and Banfield. It's a really good team. If things click for this Fremantle Dockers in 2026, look for a really big year, because their second half of the year they were absolutely flying. They were a bit slow to start last year, but once they got going, they were absolutely fantastic. The next in line I've got for Fremantle: Carl Warner, Judd McPhee, Neil Erasmus, Isaiah Dudley, Joshua Draper, and Nathan O'Driscoll. Moving on to the Cats, obviously runners up last year, couldn't quite get over the line, but this is how we got them lining up at the moment. Not too many changes from last year. We've got Dangerfield, Neil, and Oliver Henry in the forward line. Ollie Henry obviously wasn't in the team late season last year. Dangerfield, I think, plays even more forward time last year. He was basically 50-50 between forward and midfield last year. I think ideal world, pardon me, is him as a basically 80-20, 80% forward, 20% midfield. Half forward line is as good as any in the competition. Brian Myers, we all know what he's capable of. Coleman medalist from last year, and Jeremy Cameron and Sean Manor. Good ball winning ability for all three of them. They can all get over 20 touches. And they can all kick goals. They can all assist goals. So that's a really, really good half forward line. The midfield, Reece Stanley. Ruck is always an issue here at Geelong, has been the last few years. Max Holmes, Bailey Smith, Tom Atkins. That three-man midfield is really solid. Ball winning of Bailey Smith, high numbers. Max Holmes, really clean, good ball user. And Tom Atkins is your hard, rough and tumble tackling midfielder, but can still win the ball as well. On the wing, Ollie Dempsey is one of the better outside mids in the competition, can get up and down the ground really well. And Jack Bowles. Halfbacks, Tom Stewart, Sam De Koning, and Lawson Humphreys. And then the fullback line is Zach Guthrie, Jack Henry, Connor O'Sullivan. It's a really solid back line, in my opinion. Interchange, Mark O'Connor, Tyson Stengel, James Warple comes across from Hawthorn, Blitzarves, and Austin Marlin as that extra defender. Also can play midfield, play defensive midfield. So he is the fifth on the interchange. The emergencies, I think Tanner Bruin will be probably in their best 23 for most of this season. We haven't seen him play for over a year, so I've got him as an emergency at the moment. Toby Conway, George Stevens as that backup midfielder, Mitch Nevitt, Brad Close, and Jed Buse. Moving on to another absolutely fantastic midfield. It's the Gold Coast Suns. They've added good players to their team that did really well last year. They lost a semi-final, but they've added even more depth across the board and high-end depth as well. So this team is going to be dangerous, in my opinion, in 2026. They've added, obviously, Jamara Ugle-Hagan to an already really good forward line, that has Ben King, who was second or third in the Coleman last year. Jed Walter, the young key forward, was out of favour in the back half of the year, but I think will be back into their best 23 potentially this year. Ben Long, Will Graham, and I've got Petrarca as a half-forward flank just because I don't want to disrupt their current midfield. But he probably goes in as a starting midfielder ahead of Miller, in all honesty. But either way, he'll be getting a lot of game time. Midfield, Witts, Brownlow medalist from last year in Rao. Anderson, unlucky not to be a Brownlow medalist last year, had a fantastic season. And Miller, that's huge. Huge four-man midfield as well. Chuck in Petrarca. Whichever combination of that you have in the midfield, you're going to be going pretty well. Wings, Sam Closey and Lockie Weller. Half back line, I've got Joel Jeffrey, Mac Andrew and John Noble. And then your full back line will power Sam Collins, who's arguably one of the best, if not the best, key defenders in the competition, and Bodie Uland. On the interchange, Daniel Rioli, one of the best interchange players you'll have. Bailey Humphrey, Nick Holman, Alex Davies, and the young first-year player in Zeke Uland, brother of Bodie. Completely different player, but I think he'll be in their best 23 this year as well. Next in line, Ned Moyle, Charlie Ballard, Jai Farah, Ethan Reid. Leo Lombard, I think, will probably be pushing towards best 23. We didn't see a lot of him last year. And Dylan Patterson also potentially will be pushing towards quite a bit of game time in 2026. Next up, GWS, another absolutely outstanding midfield. There's quite a few of them now in the competition. GWS added a bit more to their team, didn't really lose a lot. I've said that about a few teams now, but GWS is another one in that category. When their forward line's flying, they're very tough to beat because Jesse Hogan is arguably one of, if not the best one-on-one forwards in the competition. He's 2024. He was by far the best in the competition. At that, chuck in Cadman, who's looking better and better every year. So if he keeps improving, he could be in very, very big 2026. And Jake Riccardi, not to be underrated, can be very handy as well. Chuck in Darcy Jones, Brent Daniels, and Toby Green, all capable of big disposals, helping out in midfield, getting around the ground really well, and can kick goals as well. Midfield, Kieran Briggs in the ruck, probably top 7 ruckman in the competition, 7 or 8. And then chuck in Tom Green, one of the best big body midfielders, but as is Finn Callaghan, and now they've got Clayton Oliver as well in there. That will only add more depth to this midfield, so that will benefit them, I think. Xavier O'Halloran and Ryan Angwood on the wings. Their backline is arguably as good as anyone in the competition. Whitfield, Sam Taylor, Lockie Ash, Jack Buckley, Connor Iden. I've got Laverde in there, joining from the Bombers in their best back six. I don't know if he will be or not. I've got him there at the moment. That might change. Harry Himmelberg, Callum Brown, Josh Kelly, Tom Bedford, and Harry Ralston. There's a couple big names not in there, and that is how deep this GWS team is. Lee Kalia, not there at the moment because I've got Sam Taylor, Buckley, and Himmelberg above him. And Laverde at the moment I've got above him as well. Joe Fonte, Jake Stringer, I don't have in the best 23. He probably will be, in all honesty, he should be, but I want Callum Brown out there at the moment, and it's probably him or Stringer, in my opinion, getting that last forward spot. Harvey Thomas, unlucky. Caniglio, unlucky, and Cody Angrove is the 6th emergency I have on the list. Next up, we head across to Hawthorn, who are the team that knocked GWS out of the finals last year. Forward line that keeps getting better each year and looks like, on the most part, will get better again. Hard to see Jack Gunston having as big a year as he had last year, but strange things happen. He had a career best year at 34 years old, so that's crazy. Him, Chell, and Kaushir as the key tall forwards, and then Dylan Moore, Ginnivan, and Watson as your smaller forwards, medium-sized forwards. Nick Watson will get midfield time this year. He had a little sneak peeks at it last year. If he can up that fitness rate, we'll see a lot more of him in the midfield this year, especially with like Will Day going out. That will certainly, I think, be very beneficial for Hawthorn. So Nick Watson, look for him to get plenty of midfield time as well. Ruck, Lloyd Meek, and then Will Day, Joe Newcomb, and Connor Nash in there as well. Obviously, Will Day's missing the first half of the season, but once he comes back in, he'll clearly be their best 23 as a midfielder. I've got Josh Weddle on the wing. He pretty much can play any position. You can chuck him down back, you can chuck him forward, you can chuck him wing. He's pretty versatile. I've got him starting on the wing. And Morrison was really good as well last year on the wing, which means D'Ambrosio goes onto the bench for me. Impey, Battle, and Carl Lamont as your half-back flankers, and Josh Battle, obviously, your centre-half-back. And then your full-back line of Sicily, Barras, and Scrimshaw. Sicily, someone kind of like Weddle in a different sort of way, but can play versatile, can play key defender, can play general defender. You can also chuck him forward when you need a goal, so he does that quite a lot as well. Interchange, D'Ambrosio. Connor McDonald, I think, is in for a big year this year. Josh Ward, Blake Hardwick, another versatile both-end player. You kind of want him as the backline player most of the time. And Cam McKenzie. Next in line, Mitch Lewis, unlucky not to get a role as a key forward. Finn McGuinness will get game time. Ned Reeves back up Ruckman. Sam Butler. Bailey McDonald will be an interesting year for him. And Jack Dalton, I can see getting some game time this year. Moving to the Demons. I don't know what's expected from Melbourne this year. We'll see. Probably not high hopes. They're in an interesting little holding pattern. Obviously, lost 2 midfielders. Oliver, Petrarca, that's impossible to cover. Obviously, Jack Steele does come in, so that does help that a little bit. But they're certainly in an interesting phase of their development, I guess. Forward line, Bailey Fritsch was good last year. Harrison Petty, Jake Melksham. Forwards, Cade Chandler, who had a bit of a down year last year, but still one of the best medium-sized forwards in the competition, in my opinion. Jay Cully on the other flank. And Brody Mychek joins across from Collingwood. He'll get plenty of game time. He'll probably kick your 35-plus goals this year. I would say midfield line, Max Gawn, arguably one of the best ruckmen in the history of the competition. Probably not too many seasons left in him, but for now, he's still there. Jack Steele, Pickett and Langford as your midfielders. I think Langford moves from that wing role into the inside mid this year. He's a big body. He's a good ball user, and I think we'll see him get a bit of game time in that inside mid this year. Xavier Lindsay and Ed Langdon on your wings. Langdon is that versatile player that can play your flanks or your wing. Halfback, Salem, Turner, Bowie. Daniel Turner, I think, will be an absolute gun, in my opinion. Fullback line, Trent Rivers, Stephen May, and Tom McDonald. Interesting that Stephen May stayed at Melbourne. Couldn't find a gig somewhere else, so we'll see how that plays out for Melbourne this year. Interchange, I've got Max Heath as a backup ruck. Jack Viney, CJ. Giaff has joined across from Hawthorn. I've got him on the bench. Tom Sparrow and Caleb Windsor is how I see Melbourne lining up. Jake Lever, the unlucky one at the moment. The unlucky tall that's not there. I've gone May, McDonald and Turner ahead of Lever. I think probably Lever and May are probably that third and fourth key tall to be selected now. Tom Sparrow, I've got him on the field, so I've made a mistake there. Thorsorp, Xavier Taylor, Harry Sharp, and Latrell Pickett. Latrell Pickett, that's right. Don't mind me. I am all over the place, apparently. Half looking at one team and half looking at another. But yes, Latrell Pickett will get some game time this year, in my opinion. Next up, we head across to North Melbourne, who are due to move up the ladder. You'd have to think that they're going to have to do it eventually at some point, but maybe this is the year for North Melbourne. It's been a rough few years for them. I think their forward line is really shaping up quite well. Paul Curtis, career best year last year, and I think if he can improve on that again, he will be in the top 3 medium-sized forwards in the competition. Nick Larkey, taken over captaincy. We know what he's capable of. He's a straight kicker. He kicks goals, so he's good. Trembuff, only seen a few games from him, but he showed really good potential. So I have some high hopes that he'll go pretty solid in 2026. Then Surha, Darling, and Spargo in that half-forward line. Inside mids, I've gone Cherry, Luke Davies, Yanaki, Harry Sheasel, and I've put Colby McKercher in there. I believe he's going to be playing a fair bit of inside mid time this year, and I think that will be a huge role for him. It'll be interesting to see the makeup of the inside mids this year. Simpkin and Stevens on the wings. Half-back line of Hardiman, Logue and Daniel, and full-back of McDonald, Comben and Pink. I think this is North Melbourne's big issue at the moment. Their forward line and their midfield I quite like. Their back line, I'm just not fully convinced it's ready, but maybe some of these players can develop and really improve this year. On the interchange, I've got George Wardlaw, Finn O'Sullivan, who had a really good debut season last year, Luke Parker, Tom Powell, and Doverson, Lockie Doverson, who was their first round pick in the draft last year. He looks like potentially the best medium-sized forward in the draft from last year. I think he'll get plenty of game time this year, and look for a big season from him, as he'll get plenty of game time, and I think he'll play pretty well. Emergency list I've got for North Melbourne as Aidan Core, Will Dawson, Jacob Constanti, Bailey Scott, Robert Hanson Jr., and Callum Coleman Jones. Moving on to Port Adelaide. Fell down the ladder last year. I think they've still got that top end talent. I think they just lack some depth across the board, in my opinion. Forward line, I've got Sam Powell-Pepper, Mitch Georgiadis. I know he's played a little bit of midfield time, but I think he's still best as a full-time forward. Jack Whitlock, I've got in the team. Darcy Byrne-Jones, Jack Lukosius, and Joe Richards in that half-forward line. Jordan Sweaty in the ruck. Then, obviously, their best probably three players, arguably Zach Butters, Juan Francis, and Connor Rose. Rose did have to go back at times last year because they do lack that ball use out of the half-back line, and I think that's going to be another issue for them again in 2026. Probably one of the big weaknesses of this team at the moment. On the wing, Jace Burgoyne and Ewan McKinley. And then half-back line, Lockie Jones, Brandon Thatcher, and Logan Evans. Full-back line, Kane Farrell, Alia and Asava Ratagalia. Interchange, I've got Josh Sin, Jacob Ware coming across to Port Adelaide for his first season. Ollie Wines was good last year. Miles Bergman and Willem Drew. Missing out on the team, Todd Marshall. I don't know what role he's going to play. There's talk that he's going to be playing back, so maybe he takes over one of those tall defender spots as he returns from injury this year. Dante Vicentini, Jackson Mead, Will Lawrence, Joe Berry, and Ollie Lord are the next six for me for Port Adelaide. The Tigers, they'll want probably a couple more wins than last year. They were good improvement last year, there's no doubt about it. I think they'll be looking for even more. They've got a lot of young talent on this list. So it's hard to come up with the best 23, but this is how I see it at the moment. But there will be a lot of changes. This is probably the most dynamic best 23, I think, that will change the most this season. Forward line, I've gone Ryan Mansell, Tom Lynch, Maurice Rioli. Half forwards, Sam Lawler. He'll get plenty of midfield time, though. He's going to be an absolute gun from what we've seen so far. Harry Armstrong, Seth Campbell. Midfield, Toby Nankervis, still an absolute gun ruckman. Tim Taranto, Jacob Hopper, Dion Prestia. That's a very experienced inside mid, but you'll see a lot of these young guys come in and start to play some more inside mid time as well. Outside on the wings, we got Ralph Smith and Tracy. Half back line, we got Nick Vlauston, who's arguably one of the best general defenders in the competition, as well as Noah Bolter, Tom Brown in that half back line. Full back line, Nathan Broad, Ben Miller, and Campbell Gray. Interchange, we got LaFou, who's one of the most exciting potential key forwards in the competition if he can stay fit and healthy, which we're all hoping he will this year. Jack Ross, Steely Green, Luke Trainer, and Jaden Short, which means their next six is very young and very talented. Josh Gibcus, Sam Grill, Sam Cumming, both draft picks from this year, Liam Fawcett, Tyler Sonsi, and Kane McCoofley, all will get plenty of game time throughout 2026. So, as I said, that this best 23 will change the most probably across the board, I think. They are just a very even-ish team across the board. Outside of a couple standouts in a couple positions, like Vlauston as a half-back flanker, there's no real other standouts. Toby Nankervis is obviously way ahead of any other ruckman they've got on the list. Taranto was a fair bit ahead of other midfielders, but I can see some of these other midfielders coming in. One that I didn't mention that will definitely get game time and I don't know if he's in their best 23 straight up because we just haven't seen him yet, and that's Josh Smilly, who was injured pretty much all of last season. So I think he'll also be in the contention for plenty of game time in 2026. We'll move across to the Saints. This is arguably the biggest change to a best 23 from last year to this year. Obviously, they've bought in a lot of players, and pretty much all of them will be in their best 23. Starting in their forward line, it's starting to really take shape, this forward line. Jack Higgins, Max King, Mitch Owens. Half forwards, Max Hall and Darcy Wilson on the flanks. And Cooper Sharman, who I think is arguably one of the best young key forwards in the competition. Gets overlooked a little bit, I think, in my opinion, but he's going to be a gun. Ruck, Rowan Marshall, or Tom De Koning. It's going to be hard to find game time for both of them, in my opinion. It's going to be fascinating to see how this works out. Obviously, last time we saw, I know Fremantle do play the two rucks, but it's a little bit different because Luke Jackson plays a lot of midfield time and can play a variety of roles. Last time we saw two key rucks other than Fremantle playing was Melbourne when Brodie Grundy and Max Gawn were together, and that just didn't work. So, not saying this won't work, but it's they're going to have to find a way to give them both plenty of game time and plenty of game time as rucks, I think. In there as well is Wanganeen Malira, Jack McRae, and Marcus Windhager. So, really good ruck and inside mid lineup. Luke Ryan I've put on a wing as he's joined the club, and Brad Hill because they're just lacking wingmen. Sinclair Silvani joining the club. He'll be their second key defender behind Wilkie. And Sam Flanders, I think, plays half-back flank. It's where he was at his best as a Gold Coast Sun last couple of years. Especially last year, was a bit of a struggle for him as they didn't have midfield time for him. They didn't have half-back time for him because they just brought in too many half-back flankers. And it meant he got lost and dropped off a bit last year, but I expect to see him bounce back to big numbers as a half-back flank this year. Liam Stockhart, Callum Wilkie, and Kaminti are your back line. Interchange Burns, Philippou, Hunter Clark, Tom De Koning in rotation with Rowan Marshall and Hugo Garcia. Missing out at the moment, I've got Liam O'Connell, Taru, Lance Collard, Travaglia, Mason Woods, and Jack Carroll. It's a really solid lineup across the board. I think it's across the board. There's not too many there that wouldn't be getting games at most clubs. I think that their depth has certainly increased, as you'd expect when they've brung in the likes of De Koning, Silvani, Flanders, Luke Ryan. I think that's all of them. But, that's a lot of depth to bring into one team. So, they're certainly shaping up as a team that is fascinating to see how this will all gel together and how this will work out. But if it works out, it will work out, and they will be capable of being a top 14 this year, in my opinion. Sydney Swans is next, a team that are looking to bounce back after a disappointing 2025 after getting thrashed in the 2024 grand final. A team that's changed again. They've brought in Charlie Curnow. They needed a key forward and they've got him. They went out and they got him. They gave up a bit for him. Obviously lost Hayward, lost Florent. But I think the Curnow at his best is certainly outweighs that, in my opinion. They needed a key forward. I think Joel Lamarty's better as that second key tall. I think he'll benefit a lot from having Charlie Curnow as the number one target, and he can be the number two. I've also got Hayden McLean on the field as the third key forward. And then Papley, we all know what he's capable of. Didn't have the best year last year, but did show some glimpses. Certainly the last game of the season, he was fantastic. McInerney and Roseus as the half-forward flankers. Midfield of Brodie Grundy, Isaac Heaney, Chad Warner, and James Rowbottom. We all know what all four of them are capable of. Three of them are certainly All-Australian or have been All-Australian or capable of being All-Australian. And I think James Rowbottom's one of the best at that defensive, hard-tackling midfielder in the competition. Errol Gordon on one of the wings. He rotates inside mid at times. He's the best at what he does in the competition. His foot skills are almost second to none in the competition. He's absolutely a gun and missed the first half of the year last year. And funnily enough, in that second half of the year, Sydney did play a lot better once he was back. So If he can stay fit and firing all year, watch for Sydney to definitely bounce back. Him delivering the ball into Curnow is a tantalising prospect, I think. So watch out for that plenty of times this year. Jake Lloyd on the other wing, halfback, Callum Mills, Nick Blakey, Jai Sarong I've currently got in their best 23. We'll see how that plays out. Come round, I was going to say round one, but opening round will be where they start. Full back line of Riley Bice, Tom McCartan, and Louis Milliken. And then interchange, I've got Matt Roberts, Campbell, Sheldrick, Jordan, and Hanley. Missing out for them, McDonald of the Logan variety. Taylor Adams, unlucky, but this midfield is pretty strong. Dane Rampy, Sam Wicks, Peter Ladhams, and Corey Warner. 2 teams left to look at. Next up, we've got West Coast. Another young team that's on the way up. This team will probably change a fair bit as well, similar to Richmond, obviously. Just the 1 win last year for the Eagles. They need to win more than that this year. Full forward line of Uys Waterman and Job Shanahan. Half forwards of Jamie Cripps, Jack Williams, and Jack Graham. In the midfield, I've gone young and old. Matt Flynn as the ruck at the moment, but I think ideally Cooper Duff Titler will be getting plenty of game time this year. Harley Reid, Elliot Yeo, and Tom McCarthy as the midfield. I think it's a really solid inside mid lineup. Tom McCarthy obviously was mid-season draft pick number 1 last year. Played predominantly pretty much full-time as a halfback flanker, ball-using backman. But I think their whole intention throughout this whole preseason so far has been to give him midfield time. So I think we'll see him in there. And if it's him, Harley Reid, and Elliot Yeo, I think it's quite an exciting 3-player inside mid. On the wings, I've got Marek and Dersma. I'm not 100% sure on where Dersma's going to play most of his time in his first season. He is that sort of player that can kind of play a variety of roles. So we might see him start on the back flank as more an easier sort of role than the wing. Sometimes on the wing, players can get a little lost and go quiet for big periods, where on the half-back flank, you're always kind of getting involved in the game. So we'll see how that plays out. But he could also go forward and kick a few goals here and there as well. Half-back line, I've gone Baker, Young, and Cole. And then full-back line of Liam Duggan, Harry Edwards, and Ruben Ginby, who's been an absolute find as a key defender and really showing some good signs. On the interchange, Starcevic, who's come across from Brisbane, Archer Reid, Tyler Brockman, Tim Kelly, and Josh Lindsay. Next in line, I've got Sandy Brock. Cooper Duff Titler, as I said, I think he'll get plenty of game time this year. West Coast clearly have been struggling for rucks, decent rucks for the last few years, and maybe he's the one to bounce that out. I think he'll really benefit from the change in the ruck rules as well. Brody Howe, Elijah Hewitt, Tyrell Dewar, and Bo Allen are the rest of the emergencies. Moving across to the Western Bulldogs, and the final team to look at. Arguably one of the best lists in the competition. I think their big downfall at the moment is that back line. It's where they struggle for depth the most and probably struggle for elite talent, whereas we know they have elite talent in their midfield and in the forward line. So that back line is their biggest concern, I think. Full forward line, Cody Waitman will come back into the team this year. He missed all of last year. I don't think he'll be ready for round 1, or opening round even, but I think we'll see him move into this team at some point. Norton, as a second key forward, is so much better. When he's the only target or the main target in the forward line, I think he struggles a bit. But when Sam Darcy's up there, he just benefits from that so much. So we'll see those two combine for a lot of goals, I think, this year. Vandermeer on the other pocket, Riley West and Riley Sanders on the 2 flanks, and Sam Darcy at centre-half forward. Arguably will be the best key forward in the competition this year. If he stays fit and healthy all season, watch out. He could absolutely take this game and completely change it. He is that good. Tim English in the ruck is good. And then obviously Bontempelli, he's been my number one ranked player the last 3 seasons. No reason to think he won't be again in 2026. Ed Richards, he shot up the board 2 years ago and then shot up even further last year. He was fantastic. Tom Liberatore can play as that third midfielder, but even fourth if you chuck in Joel Frazier. So they're really solid in there. Wings, Bailey Williams and James Harms, who played really well as a wingman last year. Half back line, Bailey Dale's their good ball user out of the back line. The rest of the back line I have concerns about here and there. Jed Bustlinger, Lachlan Bramble, and then the full back line of Cleary, Lobb, and James O'Donnell. On the interchange, I've got Frazier, Adam Treloar, Connor Butterick, Jordan Croft, and Oscar Baker. It's a really solid 23 across the board, in my opinion. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that lineup goes, I guess. Emergencies for the Doggies, I've got Riley Garcia, Nick Caulfield, Sam Davidson, who pretty much played all of last year and is unlucky, Baku Kamis, Cooper Hines, and Harvey Gallagher. So that's every club's best 23. Sorry about the skipping through, but we'll go back to this screen and wrap up this episode. Potentially been a long one. I don't even know how long I've been recording for. A while. I hope you've enjoyed it though. That's a look at the best 23s. Make sure you jump in the comments and let me know your thoughts on your team's best 23 and other teams' best 23s as well. I'm interested to hear it all. As I said, there's plenty of podcast content coming out over the next every week, not just pre-season, but certainly pre-season. There's plenty of plans, plenty of episodes. This is the 3rd episode of the year. Next week, we've got our tier list and expectations for each club coming out. That'll be on the 10th of February. And then we got episode predicting every single match of 2026. Episode 6 on the 20th of February will be our season predictions. And then we're going to be doing match sim reviews, pre-season match reviews, and then into opening round previews and stuff. So plenty of pre-season content in the podcast. That's live, well not live, but goes up every week on the YouTube, Spotify, and Apple podcast channels. All Aussie Rules everywhere, so go check that out. We've got plenty of social media content, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky. Go check it out. All Aussie Rules everywhere. I'm trying to up the content every single week as well across the board, so go check that all out. And the final thing to do and mention is our pre-season previews. I did mention them at the start. We're doing them for every single club in the competition all the way through February, 5 a week. Pretty much the schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. We're going alphabetical order. Adelaide is already up on the YouTube channel, so go check that out. YouTube, All Aussie Rules is where you'll find it. Adelaide's already up. Brisbane, Carlton, Collingwood, Essendon all go up this week. Next week's Fremantle, Geelong, Gold Coast, GWS and Hawthorn. Following week is Melbourne, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, Richmond and St Kilda. And then the final week is Sydney, West Coast and Western Bulldogs, which will be out on the 26th of February. So it's a massive month of content. It's a massive month on the YouTube. So make sure you go hit that subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts on all of it. I'm always interested. I'm Jay or John. This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast, episode number 3 of 2026. I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope to see you next week for episode number 4.